Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Sports Scoop. And welcome to our NFL Week 15 predictions. Oh, it's coming down. We only got 3 more weeks. But today on the Sports Scoop to do the picks, I'm Keane McDermott. I'm joined as always by my fantastic co-host, Suraj Kadali.
Can't believe it. I feel like time goes so fast when the actual season goes by, and then when it's the off season, it's just so slow.
So slow.
But
But we will be going over, obviously, every single game on the Week 15 slate. As always, make sure you guys comment your predictions down below. But without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, sir, it's Thursday night football divisional matchup. We have the San Francisco 49ers playing the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, the storyline there is Brock Purdy. It's every year in the NFL. It's just there's something where it's like, how is that possible? The last pick in the NFL draft, playing against a quarterback in Tom Brady, who is 24 years older than him, and he goes and beats Tom Brady. Last pick of the draft. It's just the storyline there is insane. Obviously, we know as well, Deebo Samuel, we had thought had a serious injury. Doesn't look like his ankle is broken. I think Shanahan reported that it was a high ankle sprain, so he will be missing some time. But the 49ers look like, they're haven't missed a step with their third string quarterback at play here. But against the Seahawks, what's your outlook on this game?
Yeah, I think this is it's a interesting game, and I think it's because it's a divisional game. It'll be very close. But here's the thing: the Niners' defense right now is easily the best defense in football. They are absolutely
fantastic,
shutting down whoever they're playing, whether it's Miami, Tampa Bay, no matter who they're playing. Great. And Seattle kind of have gone a bit more cold recently, so I don't really trust them, even though I think they definitely could pull this out. They've got the talent to do so, but the way the Niners defense is playing, I don't see it happening. Give me San Francisco here. And I think it'll be a defensive game. I think the defense will show up, especially given that Deebo will miss time, but I still think this is San Francisco's game.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one for me. I think obviously Brock Purdy, is he that kind of quarterback where we see him step in for 2-3 games and be wonderful and then obviously kind of, tamper off? But I'm going to go for 49 as well. You talk about the defense. It's been absolutely fantastic. I think it's just a defense that has gone through a lot of injuries, and I think when we see them fully healthy, this front seven is scary. It is a fantastic front seven when all is healthy, and we're obviously seeing what they impose on other defenses, or excuse me, on other offenses. I think they'll do the same. As you talked about, the Seahawks kind of hitting a bit of a cold streak, which I think was expected, especially kind of looking at what we expected of this team coming into the season. We expect them to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they haven't been. But I think the 49ers take this one on Thursday night. We'll move now to a Saturday game. So we have 3 Saturday games, interesting enough. And on Saturday, 1 p.m., we have the Indianapolis Colts playing the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, we know how good the Vikings have been. What is your outlook on this game, Serge?
Yeah, this is um the Vikings coming off a tough loss where their defense just hasn't looked great recently, and the Lions played pretty well. But I think this is a team in Minnesota that is being really held together by Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and that offensive line and Kevin O'Connell, which actually that's better, but still they don't really have those, like, especially Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. And going against a tough Colts defense, this could be a tighter game than people think. But at the same time, I don't really trust that Colts offense with Matt Ryan, with the limited amount of weapons. It'll be a close game, but like I said, even though all the metrics say the Vikings are a fraudulent 10-3 team, they're still 10-3 at the end of the day, and they'll show why this game. So give me Minnesota.
Yeah, the Colts to me are just that very boring team. I'm not a massive fan of watching Colts football. I haven't been a fan of watching Colts football for a very, very long time. And yeah, the Vikings again coming out that tough loss, and I think the defense was always the question mark there. Obviously, we know what this offense has. We know the firepower that this offense brings. But I think again, you're going up against a Colts defense that is very good, one of the better defenses in the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if they cause some problems here. And then again, maybe you put this game on upset watch, but just the style of football the Colts play for me is just so bland. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor has been completely inexistent this season. Obviously, he's been through injuries, but just the production from him is nowhere near what we thought would be from a guy who was was supposedly the best running back in the National Football League. That being said, it looks like Josh Jacobs is the best running back in the National Football League, which is mind blowing. So again, it's been a weird season in the NFL, as we have said over and over again on these predictions. But I'm going to go Vikings with you as well as we move on now to another divisional matchup Saturday 4:30 as the Baltimore Ravens head to play Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. What is your outlook for this one, Serge?
Yeah, I don't. It depend. I think it's very important, obviously, whether or not they have Lamar or not. But at the same time, Deshaun Watson does not look good. He doesn't
Yeah.
look good at all. He's really struggled, and this Browns team really doesn't have that great of a defense either. And we saw Tyler Huntley was able to do just enough to kind of beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I say the Browns have a similar level offense. I guess yeah, the Browns do have Nick Chubb, but at the same time, it just hasn't been very impressive from Cleveland this year. And I think Baltimore are a team that, like I said, they're still in this divisional race and they haven't really been winning games pretty, but I think that defense will step up against Cleveland, make it again a pretty low scoring game. But I think Tyler Huntley, you could do a lot worse than a Tyler Huntley as a backup. So I think Baltimore will barely be able to pull this one out. And if it's Lamar, I think they'll win, obviously. A
Yeah,
lot more.
I don't think it'll be Lamar. I believe Lamar is out for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in Serge, we talked about this on a podcast last year. We had a clip that went out, and it was me talking about how I think Tyler Huntley's a starting quarterback. We saw how good he was, and it's very, very funny to see the comparisons that Huntley has to Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he's not Lamar Jackson, but it's almost like having a mini Lamar Jackson as your backup. Again, I'm going to go Ravens as well here. I think defensively, we saw a big step up against Pittsburgh, obviously, with Huntley having to step in. I think Marcus Williams played a fantastic game. He's finally shown himself to be the signing that they hope to be. And I think they go and beat Cleveland again. I think Deshaun will take a few games to warm up. And again, I think he may not be fully back to who he was until next season, if he ever does come back to the true Deshaun. But I'm going to go for the Ravens
Mm-hmm.
in this one as we move to another very good divisional game Saturday as the Dolphins play the Buffalo Bills. The Bills looking to get revenge on the Dolphins after they had the clock run out in Miami, obviously having them lose that game. But I mean, Tua Tagovailoa has looked very poor these past 2 weeks. Obviously, the Bills are still the Bills. Is it that simple that the Bills just come in and take their revenge like that? What is your so far on
Yeah,
this game?
here's what I'll say. The Dolphins, after Tua's looked like an MVP candidate for most of the season, a lot of people were saying he was the favorite. It's really come back down to earth the last few weeks. And against the Niners, that's understandable. But the Chargers, he looked very poor. And it almost looked like for a second that the Dolphins offense had been figured out, that they dropped the linebackers into the middle of the field, congest it, kind of take Tua off of his take like don't let Tua get into his usual rhythm and his timing and kind of force him to play without the system that he's been playing in all season. And it worked. So I think Buffalo are going to exhibit a similar strategy. And we also saw that Miami in the elements, they haven't been very, very good this year. And I think that will really cater to Buffalo's advantage. It's supposed to be 7 inches of snow. And I think Buffalo's
Oh,
offense will also struggle a bit, but they're more used to it. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think Buffalo aren't going to get swept by any team this year. They weren't by the Jets. I think they'll also get their revenge on the Dolphins. So give me Buffalo. I think it'll be close because, again, the elements will like limit the difference, but give me the Bills.
yeah, I'm the same here. I think it's maybe the Tua hater take, but I'm gonna go for the Bills here. I think they swiftly and quickly take revenge on Miami again. Tua looking like the Tua that I've always seen him to be, so that's good to
Mm-hmm.
see. But yeah, I'm gonna go Buffalo here. I think this is a simple one for me to pick. As we'll move on to the next matchup, as we have the high flying Philadelphia Eagles against the ground level Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Surge,
Well,
is this another? Is
they've at
this an
least both got good quarterbacks.
That's true.
Some,
But
I mean,
is this another simple one for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think the issue is the Bears have a terrible defense, and Jalen Hurts, the possible MVP favorite at this point. He
Mm-hmm.
is the MVP favorite at this
Mm-hmm.
point. I think he's going to tear this defense apart. I think Fields will do his best to make it decently competitive at the end. Then he's not going to be able to come out to catch up with this high flying Eagles offense. Going to be Philly here.
Yeah, I'm again going the same thing as a Giants fan, and what we saw against the Eagles, the absolute trouncing of the New York Giants. I think the Bears are a worse team. I think the Eagles go out and beat them, and the Eagles again to me look like Super Bowl favorite right now, and Jalen Hurts looks to be the clear MVP right now. This team is just absolutely unstoppable. I think everything they've done in the offseason has paid off, and again, I think it's an Eagles team that should handily beat the Bears. That being said, Justin Fields has been great. I think he's showing why he's the best quarterback out of that class at the moment. So it should be a very good battle. Quarterback wise, two similar guys, I would say, in terms of play style with that rushing upside and kind of the accuracy. But I'm going to go for Philadelphia here as we move on to the next one. Speaking of the New York Jets, as they play the Detroit Lions. And Robert Griffin III tweeted this, and I couldn't agree more. I'm going to paraphrase. I don't remember the exact tweet, but no one wants to play the Lions. I think this is a very, very explosive offense. Jameson Williams getting brought in. He played fantastic. Obviously got his first touchdown, after returning from that ACL injury. It's a really good Lions team. They obviously have named Jared Goff to be the starting guy for the rest of the season. And then again, it's a Jets team that's still in the playoffs right now, or
no, I think they're
the
out
bubble.
now.
They're bubble now.
They're on the bubble. They're in
bubble.
the eighth
I was
seed.
thinking of the Giants. The Giants are the AC. The Jets, I believe, are on the bubble. Or no, the Giants are the 7th seed, excuse me, and the Jets are on the bubble right now. So what do you, I mean, this is a tough one if I'm a Jets fan. This is a tough one, but what is your pick for this one?
This is tough. I think this is literally just a 50-50 game because the Lions are coming in as the hotter team, but they're going as a dome team into New York to play a really good defense. But here's what concerns me as a Jets fan, because the Lions offense has always been good, and now they add Jameson Williams, so now they have a vertical threat. So I think they'll put points on the board. Right. Not as many as they have the past few weeks, but they'll put points on the board. The issue is this defense was once a huge weakness of this team, and now they have really started to come along. They've really been playing well, and that's the reason why the Lions haven't just been winning, but they've been winning pretty convincingly the last few weeks, like winning by 13 against the Giants, barely losing against Buffalo, dominating the Jags, winning pretty handily against the Vikings. So I'm going to go Detroit. I think it's so close, such fine margins in that game. We're going to go Detroit reluctantly, but 50-50 for me.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me as well. I think what comes, again, I think the matchup between Sauce and James Williams is fantastic. Obviously, we previewed that college matchup last year, Cincinnati, Alabama, on one of the podcasts, and I think we said it very well. We were like, we don't think either of them's going to get the better of each other. It'll be like a James Williams 75-yard game, and Sauce will break up some passes, and I think that could be the same story here. Again, we know the Jets play more of a zone defense, so it's harder to kind of track the man-on-man stuff here, but I'm gonna go Lions as well, simply off form. But again, this is a complete toss for me. I would say this is the hardest one to predict out of all of them. And it's so funny. A game last year, which would have been a trash bowl, I think this could be one of the better games.
Games for the playoffs, really trying to stay alive in the playoff race. Huge game.
Exactly. So again, I think this is a bigger game for the Lions than it is for the Jets, just because the Lions, obviously the record is not as good. So I think the Lions will have just that little bit more motivation to go out and win the game. So I'm going to give it to the Lions there. But we'll move on to the next one as we have the Steelers against the Panthers. Obviously the Panthers can overtake, and obviously that division has been very, very poor. But what is your outlook? Obviously the Steelers falling to a Lamar-less Ravens towards the end of the game, and the Panthers obviously, kind of letting go Baker, the franchise that we see to be very weak. What is your pick for this game?
Yeah, Carolina looked good though last week.
Yeah, they did. No, they did. Yeah.
Sam Darnold had 14 for 24, 120 yards, but if you watch him play, he didn't look that bad. The offense was solid. They got 30 points. They were able to pick off Geno Smith a couple times as well on defense. So, and remember, it's the NFC South, so they're still fighting for the division somehow, even though I thought they were tanking at one point this season. But I'm going to go Pittsburgh because I think one of the important storylines is that Mike Tomlin never had a losing record as a head coach. Unless the Steelers win out, they will. That streak will end, and I think that's gonna be a little bit of extra motivation in this game. The Steelers, again, they've got really good weapons at receiver, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, of course, and I think that defense will step up against Sam Darnold, against a much tougher unit in Pittsburgh. So I think they'll hold on, but it'll be close. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina win this one.
This is a tough one. I'm gonna go Carolina. I think this is the first game we both picked against, but I think, to me, it's a Carolina team that I think is very volatile because you have a quarterback like Sam Darnold, quarterback like PJ Walker. And again, is it going to be Sam Darnold? I'm assuming it's going to be Sam Darnold in this one, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, it's Sam Darnold, as much as he's hated on, he was drafted highly for a reason. Like, this guy has upside, and he can play well. And we obviously, I wouldn't, overtly saw that last week, but saw flashes of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
He's
again,
he's
it's
undefeated as a starter. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
he's not like playing at a extremely high level, but he
But
isn't. He's playing
he's not
okay. He's playing
losing.
okay.
Yeah.
He's definitely got a future in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's surprising. That's surprising to hear. But I'm gonna go Panthers again. This is kind of the one where it's kind of that gut feeling. This to me is a very close matchup. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the Lions Jets game that we just talked about. But I got that feeling that the Panthers go out and win it. And we'll move on to the next one. Another 1 p.m. window game is the Chiefs play the Texans. The Chiefs, again, speaking of Super Bowl favorites, I would say probably right behind the Eagles as they handedly beat the Broncos last week. Again, Serge, is this just that easy to pick?
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, the Chiefs looked very fallible. That defense giving up 28 against the Denver Broncos, like that is that's unforgivable. And that really is something that's gonna, I think, gonna haunt them come playoff time. But against a team like the Texans, even though I think Mahomes will bounce back from that 3 interception performance and light up Houston, and I think Houston will again going against a poor defense, they'll score some points, but it won't be enough to catch up with Kansas City. But against better teams, I think that could really hurt them. But for this game, give me Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, it's just that simple. I think it's Kansas City simply because of the firepower this team has. The Texans, obviously, it was all riding on Davis Mills going into the last, or obviously, coming into the season, and hasn't been the flashy, kind of hyped up guy we saw. But again, it's a Chiefs team that year in and year out, no matter what you throw at them, they are always playing at a high level. Patrick Mahomes looked inhumane against the Broncos. That kind of like you saw that passers like that throw. I don't even know how to describe it. Just he is
I don't know. It's some weird
something.
under.
Yeah, I don't
It's
even know.
Mahomes.
Just something out of this world. I think he goes and handily takes on the Texans as we move on to the next game. A lot of divisional matchups. We have the Falcons and the Saints again in a division that is completely up in the air. What is your outlook on this one?
Um, two. So, well, an interesting storyline. Desmond Ritter gets his first start as an NFL QB. I think that'll be an interesting storyline. While the Saints, with their own QB controversy, decide to stick with Andy Dalton, the Saints kind of look a bit more lost than the Falcons, who at least have somewhat of an identity. And I think that'll be the difference. Neither of these teams really are that good. Although, like I said, Falcons still technically fighting for that NFC South. Saints 2 games back, not really, because
But I mean, I
the
guess
Bucks
you
have a
never know.
tiebreaker. But I mean, you never know with this division. But I don't think they're really fighting for it anymore. So I think Atlanta will win this game.
Yeah, this it's just such a I just don't get like I mean, it's just the NFL just boggles my mind this season. Like it's so confusing. This game to me is so boring. Um, but again, I think it's a game that could produce like this could be one of the best games this week.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm tough. I'm gonna stick with you and go Atlanta here, but I mean the Saints have shown that they can win games. The Bucks look horrible. This division to me is completely up in the air. It's like the NFC East the
Mm-hmm.
past couple years. And I saw somebody who was like the Giants could be first in the NFC South if they were
Yep.
and they're last currently in the NFC East. So it's a tough one for me, but again, the Falcons I think go and win it, but that being said, it's again very little confidence in this one just because of how average how painfully just below average both of these teams have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go
Yep.
Falcons in this one, but we move into the next one. We have the Cowboys against the Jaguars. Speaking of Super Bowl favorites, I'd say the Cowboys are right
Mm-hmm.
behind the Chiefs and the Eagles. This Cowboys offense is unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's been kind of a theme. But again, sir, I've said it many times. Is it just that easy to pick this one, or do you think Trevor Lawrence can go out and do something?
No,
I was
I
gonna
don't
say the
think it
same
is
thing.
because the Cowboys really struggled and barely beat the Houston Texans, the 1-11-1 Houston Texans. Dak Prescott, 2 interceptions again. The defense just didn't really look that good against a mixture of Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll. So that is really concerning for me. And the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, the past 3-4 weeks has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I think second or third highest PFF grade. I know it's PFF, but at the same time, it backs it up based on how he's been playing recently. So this is my upset pick. I'm gonna go Jacksonville.
I
I think
like it.
at home they're gonna. I think Trevor Lawrence is gonna have a really good game against this Cowboys defense. I don't know how popular of an upset pick this is, but I think they're going to have a good game. Doug Peterson is going to win his matchup against Dan Quinn in the coaching battle. And I think this defense will kind of do just enough, maybe force another turnover or two from the Cowboys. And I think they'll pull off the upset because the Cowboys looked a bit too fallible. Not just this week. No, this week they looked a bit too fallible. And I think they're fine. They're still an elite team, still a top 5 team, but I think you just get the feeling that they're going to drop one soon, but then they'll be back to normal.
I'm gonna go Cowboys. I really want to go Jaguars with you, but it's just to me, it's a little bit too far off of a pick for me. I think it's a Cowboys team that's rolling right now. So I'm gonna stick with them. But again, they're every team kind of has that game where they obviously turn around. So it's a tough one, but I'm gonna go Cowboys. I do think that the game being in Jacksonville will make a difference, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to OT if it ends up being a field goal, being very very razor thin in terms of the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go Cowboys in this one as we move on to the next matchup, first matchup of the 4 p.m. window: Cardinals and the playoff list Broncos. It's a tough one. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, battle of the terrible coaches. Nathaniel Hackett versus Cliff Kingsbury. But the difference is the Cardinals actually have a quarterback who's playing at a decent level right now. I know Kyler Murray does get a lot of hate, but he's still a pretty good quarterback. And I think just that will be the difference in a game between, again, two teams very inept. And the Broncos would really like to be tanking right now, but the problem is the Seahawks have their pick, but they just look so incompetent. They at least did something on offense this week. I think that was more of an anomaly. So I think the Cardinals will take this one.
Yeah, I mean the Broncos just look horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. Russell Wilson looks like god awful.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos are arguably the worst team in the National Football League right now, or second
Mm-hmm.
worst.
Arguably. I think
Arguably.
that's
I mean, they look
definitely
horrible, and it's just so sad because of how good this defense was. And I mean, this should not be one of the worst team or one of the worst teams in football. This shouldn't.
really
Yeah, I
tells
mean,
you how
yeah,
terrible this offense has been. Worst
yeah.
points per game. I think like 13 point
Yeah,
something.
and I'm pretty sure it said if it was something where like if the Broncos scored 13 more points each game, they would be 10-3 or
Yeah.
something. It's just, it's unfortunately it just hasn't clicked. And I don't know an offense. I don't know a team that's ever succeeded after having a season this bad without a rebuild. But the Broncos have kind of already went through that, and they've given up so much, and it's not like they're going to be trading Russ off. So I think it's got to be a coaching move in the offseason if I were to
Mm-hmm.
make a
Yeah,
decision. But
absolutely.
I'm gonna go Cardinals here. I'm gonna stick with you. I think again, it's just I don't need. It's not even that I think the Cardinals are that much better of a team. I just think the Broncos have been so terrible and really been shooting themselves in the foot. So I'm gonna go for the Cardinals here. We'll move on to the next one as we have the New England Patriots facing the Las Vegas Raiders, two coaching staffs that are familiar with one another. What do you got in this one?
Um, Close one. Even though the Raiders did lose to the Rams, they've kind of been on a roll recently, and Josh
Right.
McDaniels knows the Bill Belichick system better than ever, better than anyone. Sorry. I think obviously Bill Belichick knows the Raiders scheme, but I think the Raiders have a superior personnel to New England. I think Josh Jacobs could have another one of those really good games, and he's been having a very good season, and he's going to get a big contract in the offseason. I think he's going to kind of continue on that tear against New England. And yeah, give me the Raiders here. Close one though, but I don't these are two teams that are just not very good.
Agreed. And again, to me, it's all going down to Devontae Adams, who has been on an absolute rampage. Obviously, last week was a bit of a down week, but he has been fantastic. And I say that he's been on my fantasy team, and he dropped like 4 back-to-back weeks going for 30 plus points. He's been absolutely the X factor for this Raiders team, as expected when they brought him in this offseason. I'm going to go for the Raiders as well. I think, again, Serge, I agree with what you said. I think they're on that roll. The Patriots, again, just, not a very good franchise. Obviously, Mac Jones looked like he was regressing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm simply going to go for the Raiders here. I think matchup wise, I favor them a little bit more because I don't think they have a corner who can stop Devontae Adams, whereas last year it might have been JC Jackson. So that's where it comes down to me. We'll move on to the next matchup. We have the Titans against the Chargers, 425. Obviously, the Chargers coming off a big win against Miami. What do you got in this one, Serge? Is it a Derrick Henry pound the ball game?
Yeah, here's the Chargers are going to lose for two reasons. One, every time they have this convincing performance that, oh, right, this team is now for real, they lose them the very next week. And the second reason, more importantly, is that they're going against Derrick Henry, and the Chargers have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. They might be getting guys back like Sebastian Joseph Day, which could kind of help with that, but they've still not been very good at all in that facet. And Tennessee, Mike Vrabel is, I mean, the Titans are on a bit of a, they're on a bit of a fall 3-game losing streak, but I think they'll end that in Los Angeles, pull off an upset win, and advance to I think 8-6, and kind of try and fend off Jacksonville, a surging Jacksonville in the past few weeks.
Yeah.
But give me Tennessee here.
Ooh, I like it. I'm gonna go Los Angeles here. I think they're gonna start to catch a heat, and I think they're gonna start and win and start. They're gonna win. Start winning these games late in the season. Again, I mean, we've been talking about just how weird the NFL is. Obviously, that division has been, besides the Chiefs, has just been not what we expected it to. But now it's starting to pick up. Obviously, the Raiders are starting to show what they should have been early in the season. It took a little bit to get that chemistry in the Chargers as well. Obviously, they have been decimated by injuries, like absolutely decimated. They didn't have their two starting receivers, their tight end for quite a while. So I think Herbert, with those weapons back, is going to start to go on a roll, and I think they'll beat Tennessee here. Again, the only question is, how do you contain Derrick Henry? And if you can't, you don't win the game. If you can win the game. That's kind of where it goes for Tennessee.
Yep.
But we'll move on to the next game as we have what would be a absolutely riveting matchup if you talked about it last year, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals against the first place Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brady against Burrow. Surge, what's your outlook on this one?
Yeah. Tampa Bay are, I mean, I guess they did go against the best defense in the NFL, but Tampa Bay are not a good team. They are very inconsistent. Just they seem kind of out of sync, and Todd Bowles is one of the worst head coaches in the NFL. I'd be surprised if he does survive past this season. But they are still first in the NFC South because it's the NFC South. But going against a Bengals team, which is just been getting hotter and hotter. Joe Burrow, ever since they really gave him a lot more authority over play calling duties, has been a serious MVP candidate, and I think he's going to continue it against a pretty not great Bucks defense. So I think Cincinnati will. I don't know if they'll pour it on, but they'll win pretty comfortably. Give me Cincy here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cincy as well. And I think if you talked about this game earlier in the season, it would have been a Bucks win. But obviously, the Bengals kind of catching heat and showing the team that they were last year. But yeah, I mean, again, the Buccaneers to me just don't seem like the team they were. I don't think they will be. I think Tom Brady's time there is a little bit is starting to come to an end. And again, Burrow has looked absolutely fantastic after looking not fantastic to start the season. So I'm gonna go Cincinnati here. I think putting these teams together. I think the Bengals just overshadow the Buccaneers in so many ways. So I think Cincinnati go and win this one, as we will move on to the Sunday night matchup. Giants, Washington Commanders. Massive. I'm a Giants fan. Massive game for us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to win this one. Can we win it though, Serge? What's your pick for this one?
The Giants really looked kind of very, very like, I don't know, not necessarily in free fall, but just kind of haven't been able to deal with all the injuries they've been having to deal with this week. Washington coming off that tie, but they've been playing really a lot better football than the Giants have been. Like I said, got absolutely annihilated by the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're going against the worst offense, so they'll keep it close, but I think that Commanders front four, front seven is just so good. I think that'll make the difference. So give me the Commanders as they kind of sneak their way to a wild card berth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go Giants here simply because it's my team and call me
Yeah.
biased, but yeah, I mean, I'm not confident this one. I think free fall is the perfect language for it. And I think as a Giants fan, we were all expecting this. We started the season off absolutely firing on all cylinders, and all Giants fans, we all knew. But I would be lying to you if I didn't know that this would come to an end, and kind of has been, obviously sitting at 7-5-1. But again, I mean, the Giants classically are a good team against Washington, and the matchup I generally like when the Giants play Washington. I think we've been able to get out good results, but again, this one's 50-50 to me. I think it'll be a Giants win, and I think the key to it is getting to Taylor Heineke, and obviously, their whole defensive plan is, we know this Giants offensive line is very weak, besides on that left side, and we're going to exploit it with the front seven we have that we obviously know has been fantastic. They obviously have Chase Young back as well. So I think it's a Saquon Barkley game where you need to get him out into the flat. You need to be getting him catching balls, because I don't see much gaps opening up in the middle. And then again, you're trying to find targets down the field, but obviously the receiver injuries have been a huge problem. So it's a tough one for me. I think the Giants can do it. The question is, how is this game plan? I really like Dable. I think he's been able to put on. I mean, already the Giants are doing much better than I expected them,
Mm-hmm.
preseason. So I'm going to go
Yeah,
Giants here.
absolutely.
But, sir, as we move on to the Monday night matchup, which would have been an absolute fantastic one last year,
This year,
but
no.
this year it's not, and that is the Los Angeles Rams without Matt Stafford, or led by Baker Mayfield against
Who?
Aaron Rodgers and the underperforming Packers. Which again, it actually is a good storyline. I think it'll still be a good game. But what is your prediction for this one?
You know, Baker, I mean, it was an interesting game on Thursday night with the Rams. Baker came in, he on basically was there for like what, 4 days and
Yeah,
led them to a win. I mean, only makes sense that he'll look better. But I think the Packers, even though they're not a great team, they've got a couple of weapons there. Christian Watson is really making his case to be one of the better receivers in this class. Not the best, but I think he's really highly up there. He's been playing well. I don't know if they'll have Romeo Dubes back, but I think it's an exciting receiving core for Green Bay, exciting young receiving core, and they needed that kind of jolt. And a defense that is, it's not great, but I think it'll do against the Rams. So at home, give me the Packers.
tough one for me. I'm going to take Packers as well. Again, we know the cycle of Baker Mayfield. It's the play well for one game and then start to play like crap and then blame your receivers and your coaching staff. So I think we might be starting to hit the turn in the
I think give it a
rotation.
couple of weeks, it'll
Or
happen. Give it
maybe
a
he'll have
couple of
another good
weeks.
week. I'd be very surprised if he went out and beat Green Bay. But again, I'm going to take Green Bay, I believe, at home. So again,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a Green Bay team. Obviously, Christian Watson's been fantastic. I believe he has 7 touchdowns in the past 4 games. He's been absolutely electric. So I think the Packers go out and beat the Rams to end off our Week 15 picks. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Twitter, as we are starting to get active on all of those, which we were not previously. So make sure you guys go check that out. My name is Key McDermott. My wonderful co-host, Suraj Kadali. Let us know your picks down below. Anything you agree, disagree with. We'll get some more mock drafts out to you guys. And again, we'll try and be more active, get another podcast out to you guys. But we are trying. Thank you all so much for watching. See you next time.